Hello, y'all. It is Danny, aka Firebrand Flex, and it's Monday break time for Donkey Kong. Didn't play at all this weekend. So far, the screen is cooperating, so I think we'll be good to go. Current high score is at 106,000. Still haven't broken 100k a second time. Honestly, I'm probably a little bit rusty because I didn't play at all this weekend, so we'll see how it goes. Honestly, if I can have at least two 60k plus runs, I'll be happy. So we'll see what happens. Let's see. But yeah, so this is just kind of on my brain right now, because I just saw an article about the energy consumption done by crypto services, and I didn't even realize this. I mean, I don't have Bitcoin, I don't invest in Bitcoin. I understand its uses and why it exists and stuff, but really I don't understand it that well, if I'm going to be 100% honest. But I was reading an article about cryptoart, which I didn't even realize was a thing, but apparently cryptoart is a thing. And what it is artists can digitally release artwork and make it so it has limited editions, or instead of doing a traditional, for selling prints, they sell a digital version, so the buyers get JPEGs. The buyers get JPEGs that they can then turn around and sell if they want to, whatever. So basically art collecting, but it's entirely digital. And I was reading this article, and this article was strictly about the ecological cost of crypto art. And apparently, and I'd heard that Bitcoin uses a lot of, way too much energy for what it is, but, so this author, I should really pull up the article so I can cite it, but this author was talking about how they were doing research into crypto art because they were curious about the ecological costs of it. And it's stupid high. Apparently the amount of energy used for one transaction, so clicking to place a bid on an artwork, or paying an artist for a digital print. Apparently one click is something ridiculous. It consumes the electrical consumption is the same as an EU resident would consume over 2 years. So a single little transaction on this digital crypto online marketplace consumes as much electricity as a person living in the EU would consume over the course of 2 years. And that is absolutely ridiculous. Apparently, the reason why it costs so much is because and again, I don't really understand this, but the article explained it pretty well, and I'm probably doing a piss poor job of it. But the way that computers compute the blockchains needed to properly encrypt and decentralize the data for crypto transactions consumes a ridiculous amount of power, absolutely mind-boggling amounts of power. And so when you compile that on top of how many transactions are made, whether it be crypto art or Bitcoin mining or whatever, apparently it really adds up to electrical consumption and environmental costs, because as I mentioned, a single transaction on this crypto, for a crypto art piece costs the same amount of energy as it would for an EU resident to use, like their average power usage over the course of 2 years. And it's like something stupid like that's equivalent to 12 transatlantic flights. So a single click to make a transaction has the same energy consumption as 12 airplanes flying across the Atlantic Ocean. Which is ridiculous. Like, that is so much energy. And, you know, like, I know that, like, you know, my energy bill is probably a little bit higher than, like, your average person's, because I do, you know, have all my arcade games. Like, I don't power them on unless I'm playing them. So it, like, saves a little bit, but, like, I like having the lights on if I'm down in the basement. But, like, oh my goodness. Grabbing that hammer was probably a poor choice. They're not coming down. That's so much energy. That's so much energy that's consumed by such a small thing. The author, like, you know, went on to, like, kind of extrapolate and do further research, and apparently the average artist's electricity consumption using crypto art consumes, like the average artist who has used crypto art, and a lot of artists who have been using it for a relatively short period of time. Like, we're talking, this is something that they started up. Oh my god, these guys need to let up. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh, that was terrible. I wasn't gonna get out of that. Because that Firefox just would not let up. Ugh, gross. Oh. So the average artist who has been using crypto art services has been doing so for less than a year, because it's something that definitely, like, started a boom because of the pandemic. So the average crypto artist has been using for less than 12 months, but their average power usage is equivalent to 77 years worth of power consumption by an average EU resident. Which, again, that's, like, mind-boggling numbers that, you know, and the author of the article is like, this is strictly just, this is strictly speaking about the transactions. Like, they're not even getting into the minutia of how much it costs to host their art, how much, you know, power usage is being used by the buyer side, or the you know, the artists themselves, like, in general. Like, it is strictly just making a single transaction, and that is what they're tracking and extrapolating the data from. That's ridiculous. That's so much energy. And, you know, like, we as, like, a species in society do shit like this and then deny that it has a negative impact on the climate. Like, you know, I was gonna apologize for, like, getting political, but I'm not going to apologize, because climate change is real. And the fact that people are just in denial about it at this point is so ridiculous. Another thing that I saw today was, apparently, people are blaming the Texas snowstorms on the government, and are arguing that if Trump was still president, that there wouldn't have been terrible snowstorms. And don't get me wrong, 100% the lack of coordinated response to help people affected by the negative weather, that is 100% on the government. That is 100% on the government and their failure to create better infrastructure leading up to storms like this and effects of climate change like this. And it is 100% their fault that they are not reacting and putting into action items to correct the issue or at least mitigate the suffering of their constituents, that's 100% on the government's fault. And I will 100% back that is the government's fault. But that's not tied to a specific administration. That is tied to years and years and years of ignoring the adverse effects of the kind of electricity that we produce and like how we produce power. That is 100%, well, not 100% like on that specifically, but like very largely, attributed to burning of fossil fuels and using, forms of electricity which are adverse to the environment. And again, not planning and having the appropriate infrastructure to account for the consequences of those actions and not helping the people who are now stuck suffering the adverse effects of those actions. 100% that's on the government. But just people who are like, the snow is fake, it's a government conspiracy. I'm like, what? You think the government has power to like control where it snows? Like, I am a huge like paranormal nerd, like 100%. Like I love aliens, I love cryptids, like I love all that bullshit. But even the most bizarre and outlandish of conspiracy theories surrounding aliens or surrounding cryptids don't go as far as to posit that the government has secret weather controlling technology, which they just decide to use on a whim, apparently. And again, like, why, and this is coming from me, I'm like super left socialist. I don't know why I went on that spring, I wasn't paying attention, I got angry. Super left, socialist. This is my perspective, but I'm just sitting here and I'm like, okay, so let's say that the government did have this miraculous bullshit weather machine and was able to control the weather. Why in the world would a democratic government want to, like a government controlled by the Democratic Party, why in the world would they want to snow in Texas? Like, if anything, Texas has been swinging more and more blue in recent years as we continue to fight, gerrymandering and election and ballot suppression. Like it doesn't make any sense. Like to like and if this is a government conspiracy, why would the Democrats want to do something to anger those who are opposite them in political beliefs? Like, why would they want to anger the right instead? Because so much of Democratic bullshit is the Democratic Party bending over backwards trying to appeal to the Republican Party and be like, oh, well, we really need your help on this bill, guys, so we'll make all these concessions so that way you'll say yes. So, we'll accept all these concessions that basically undoes everything that we're trying to do except one thing, so that way we can get this passed through Congress. And God, like, ugh, awful. Alright, cool. Yeah, so it's just like, even if it was a government conspiracy, which it's not, because I'm sure the government has top secret tech. I don't think a weather machine is like a piece of top secret tech that the government is withholding from public knowledge. I just don't. It's just how I want to say how stupid can you be, but just like maybe not necessarily stupid, but how ignorant can you be? Like, how ignorant can you be to believe that this government that is in office currently is trying to ruin your lives / kill you? Because let's be frank, like, the situation regarding the weather in Texas is absolutely terrible. And honestly, like, I'm thankful because, like, I haven't seen, and I guess this just speaks to, like, the quality of the people that I follow in social media, where I haven't seen the, oh man, like, they would, like, wow, look at these Texas folks, ha ha ha, like, they would never survive a northern Midwest winter or anything like that. I haven't seen that. I've mostly been seeing, hey, people who are used to this kind of crappy weather, can you, pitch in your tips on how you get through the cold and stuff? Because the bottom line is that Texas just like doesn't have the infrastructure and isn't prepared for the cold weather. And that's why it's like so brutal. I mean, in comparison to, again, like I'm from Chicago, so like in comparison to like a Chicago snowstorm, it's like, yeah, like it's a little bit of a bad one, but it's not terribly like outrageous. Like it's not outrageously bad. But in Chicago, we're prepared for that kind of weather to an extent. Like, it would certainly result in like a snow day. I know we had snow days in like the past week due to like the snow we've been getting. Nope, jumped too early. Damn it. That was pretty good. 86,000. I know that we had snow days, which just goes to show you that that even in Chicago, we're like, yeah, it's a lot of snow. It's cold. It's not safe to go out. But like, we have the infrastructure to be prepared for that. Like every Chicago household, like houses in Chicago are built with insulation and heating systems to withstand cold winters. Like people know and are prepared for a bunch of snow. Like everybody owns. Sorry, I got real freaked out for a second there. I saw like this glare on my glass and it looked kind of like a bug and I was like, what? And then I realized it was the button on my hat, just reflecting funny. So we're good. But people in like the Chicago area, because that's what I know. That's what I know. That's what I'll speak to. Like people from Chicago, they know winter is going to be cold, icy bullshit, and they will prepare for it. They might be begrudgingly so because it's like another stupid cold Chicago winter. But like, people buy salt for their driveways. People buy shovels to shovel their driveways. They keep brushes in their they keep snow brushes in their cars so they can brush off their cars after a big snowstorm. Again, their houses are built with heating units and insulation designed to withstand the winters. They have a surplus of warm clothes. And again, like, just the preparation of like, yeah, at least at my family, it's like, okay, we know that it could be dicey driving for a little while, so let's stock up on some canned goods and get and you get like non-perishables that we can just like keep in the pantry. And even all of that Midwest preparation for a snowstorm, like, can't even compare to just the rolling blackouts and just like, and again, just the complete failure of the infrastructure of Texas to be able to support its citizens in such a terrible, inclement weather time. Because I mean, even with all of my sister and I, all of our preparation, like, if we didn't have power, we could certainly get by for a little while in the winter. Like, again, like, we bought a lot of non-perishables. Like, we have canned goods, we have non-perishables, so we could, and like, I do have a grill outside, so even if we had no power, we would still have a means of heating up food. But still, like, even as a Midwesterner, like, to go without power in the middle of winter, even if it's just for a day, it would be absolutely terrible. And then you throw that on top of living somewhere where you're not used to getting huge amounts of snow and snowstorms, and your city, your infrastructure, your state is just not prepared for that. and everything, and everything starts going down. You have the rolling blackouts and everything. It's just terrible. It's like I don't even know like what my thesis was anymore, except climate change is real. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because there are people on TikTok who are making videos about how like the snow isn't melting, so therefore it's a government conspiracy. Like when they're holding up, matches or lighters to snow and it's not melting, so they're like, it's a government conspiracy. When doing something as simple as just holding the snow in your hand will make it melt. Because I learned this from a meteorologist today, that when you are applying a flame from like a lighter or a match against a snowball, what's happening is the fuel that is being burned up from whatever it is that's producing your flame, the fuel that's being burned up is leaving a stain on the snowball and isn't necessarily like effectively heating it. And that's what's causing, and like that's why it doesn't like necessarily melt. It kind of like hardens into place, and there's this like whole, I don't remember the scientific word for it, I'm not a scientist, but there's like this whole chemical process that's actually happening when you do that, where instead of melting into water, the snow is actually converting like directly into a gas. Again, I don't remember what it's called. I'm not a scientist. Don't quote me on this. You can quote me, but you can say like, yeah, this dumb video gamer on the internet was talking about snow. But oh my gosh, like, I mean, also just, yeah, I'm just like so flabbergasted by that whole thing that I'm just kind of like, I can't even. How do you even get into like that much of a mind space, like that pathetic of a mind space where, you just have like everything is going to absolute shit, and like your coping mechanism is that you're going to believe that, an act of weather, an act of God is just a government conspiracy. Like, it's the government out to get you. Like, that's just so wild to me. That is so wild to me. I just don't understand how you can make those leaps in logic. I really don't get it. Again, I'm just flabbergasted by that. That's just like such a ridiculous thing to believe. And that's I guess like another frustrating thing is that you like see that fire guy coming for my ass. Like you, jeez, come on. Ugh. I should have just sucked it up and grabbed the hammer. Ugh, bummer. That sucked. And it's something that you definitely see from like leftists and liberals, where they like make fun of people on the right for having their beliefs and whatnot. And it's like, wow, you're so uneducated, and it's like, not necessarily. Like, the whole thing about Trump and like his ascension to power is like, it's a cult of personality. It's not as simple as like, well, these people are uneducated. There are highly educated people who backed Trump, and potentially continue to do so. I've been trying to like not follow like what's going on with him as much, just because like, I spent 4 years of my life suffering on a day-to-day basis because the things that man did. So try not to dedicate more brain space to him. Instead, I'm just going to sit here and criticize the current government. But like, people talk about how Republicans and people who vote right, aren't educated, and that's not necessarily the case. It's just they have a different set of beliefs, and the more that you mock them for those beliefs, the more you are alienating them from the conversation about politics or whatever the issue at hand is. The more you're doing that, the more Oh, shit. God damn it, I didn't get all the way up to the conveyor belt. Damn it. Ugh. Like, you know, it's kind of that thing, like, when, you know, if somebody, like, bullies you and berates you, are you gonna side with them in an argument? No. You're gonna be like, fuck you, I'm gonna do my own thing. Like, you suck. And, you know, I feel like that's not 100% the case. Oh my god, stupid pies. Ugh, that was bad. Stupid pies. Okay. Yeah, 41,000. At least I made it to the pie factory. So, like, again, it's like not 100% of the issue is like, well, liberals are mean to conservatives because they think they're stupid. I think that's part of it, but probably like a very minor part of it. It's more so, and again, this kind of contradicts what I've been saying about like the Democratic politicians, because I think if you are a politician, and this kind of goes both ways, I think if you're a politician and you are elected by a group of constituents and you made your campaign promises of like, I want to do X, Y, and Z, I think that you as an elected official should do your damnedest to deliver on X, Y, and Z. Like, whatever your campaign promises were, you better hold yourself, like, staunchly hold yourself, like, be stubborn and get those things done that you promised to your constituents. Is there a point for compromise? Yes, I do believe that there needs to be a little bit of compromise. Otherwise, frankly, we would never get anything done. Compromise is important, but I think it's that point where you get compromises to happen. And again, this is like to a lesser extent, because like, frankly, there's a lot of bullshit, which I don't even think should be, you know, political issues, but yeah, continue to be. But it's just like, you know, Trump's whole thing, like, he came to power because of his cult of personality, and he made all these bullshit promises and, like, you know, bold statements and whatnot. And every politician does that. Every politician says, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm going to deliver by ABC. But, like, I think you really need to work to deliver that to your constituents, if that's what you're promising, if that's what you get elected on. I think there also needs to be, like, a certain level of reason, and that's where we run into issues, because, you know, like, maybe I'm just too honorable for politics, because I'm like, if you promise something, you should probably deliver on that. Whereas I know that's definitely, like, not how politics works, because you do have to compromise, you do have to, you know, take losses for the greater good. But it just pisses me off. It pisses me off because, like, we're sitting here with and this could just be contradicting everything I just said, but, like, we're sitting here with a, you know, Democratic president, Democratic control of Congress, and yet we can't get basic shit done. And it's just kind of like, okay, I understand being stubborn and wanting to deliver on your campaign promises or, like, the beliefs of your constituents or whatever, but at some point, you have to put aside your personal bullshit and your, like, you know, millionaire, billionaire investors. You have to push that bullshit aside, and you have to just look at it and say, okay, I'm elected as an official to represent the will of the people, and the people need this shit. So how about we just come together across, like, you know, we come together across the aisle and we do shit to, like, actually do good for the people of our country. And it's just annoying because here's where I'm tying into, like, the campaign promises, because it feels like Republicans are so staunch and committed to, well, I said that, you know, we're going to overturn gay marriage or whatever, you know, whatever bullshit claims. Like, they're like, you're going to protect the small folk from the government. And then Democrats make these promises, and then the Republicans, they hold so dearly onto, like, whatever they said they were going to do that, you know, seems like a thinly veiled way that's going to protect the average Joe, but is actually just, you know, hateful or doesn't actually help anybody basically anybody it helps is a side effect of helping corporate money. Whereas like the Democrat side, they're like, okay, well, we're going to make promises about like we're going to raise the minimum wage and we're going to give everybody stimulus checks and blah, 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 blah. And then when it comes to actually getting it done, they just can't, because all of a sudden it's like, well, we have to appeal to the Republicans. And it's like, no, you don't have to appeal to like the other people in the House or the Senate. Like, you need to appeal to the people who fucking voted you into office. Like, you promise them things. That's what you need to be doing. And again, maybe it's like just contradicting everything I'm saying, but it's so frustrating to see how little gets done that actually benefits people, and how much gets done that hurts people. You know, it's like this legislation gets done that gives big tax breaks for giant corporations, and it's like, well, if we didn't give tax breaks to like giant corporations like Amazon, like think of how much more money we would have for infrastructure. Like if we taxed Amazon and other, you know, giant companies like, you know, the Walmarts and the Costco's of the world. Like if we like, I don't know why I pulled up Costco, like Apple. There we go. That's something that makes a lot of money. I was thinking like literally big store, and that's how I came up with Costco. That's like literally physically a big store. But you know, if we instead of giving, you know, billionaires and like millionaires, billionaires, like multi-billion-dollar corporations, instead of giving them tax breaks, if we actually taxed them and collected that money so the government could use it, like how much more good would it do? Like, you know, like, you know, people complain anytime that their taxes go up, and I get it, because even as a socialist who's like, yo, let's pay more taxes, let's have, you know, centralized governmental support, like, you know, like, let's forgive student loan debt, let's have Medicare for all, like, you know, let's have things better provided through the government, and you know, let's continue to tax people more so that way we can pay for it. Like even as someone like that, I hate it when taxes go up, because like I have to pay more. And the reason I hate it is not because, you know, phooey. I'm not like, I am willing to pay more, but like I'm not making ridiculous amounts of money. Like I'm not even making $50K a year. Like I am poor. Like so to increase my taxes and have me pay more is doing, and you know, people like me, is doing significantly less than it would to tax corporations, like large corporations. Like, shoot, these stupid wild barrels. Like if you tax these huge corporations, then you might see enough money flowing into the government. And then, I mean, once it's at the government, then it becomes this whole other issue of like, well, but you actually need to distribute it to your different programs and not just funnel it into the military. Because, oh boy, if you're not from Chicago and haven't been following the news, let me tell you, the city of Chicago received, I don't remember the exact number, but like several $100 million for COVID relief. Over 60% of that money went to the police. So I think it was like in the ballpark of like $400 million. So like $400 million went to the city of Chicago for COVID relief. 60% of that went to police. That's not COVID relief, guys. Funding the police more is not solving COVID problems. You know what COVID relief would be? You know what the tax money should have gone for COVID relief? How about, again, with infrastructure, how about you improve the infrastructure for remote learning? Because that was a whole other issue, was Chicago Teachers Union going on huge strike because they were being forced to do in-person teaching, and they're like, no, this ain't safe. So we're going to teach outside of the buildings instead of teaching in our classrooms, because that's not, it's ridiculous to make us go into the classroom. It's not safe to do so. So, improving infrastructure to promote digital learning. So that way we can do remote learning. Or, how about money for food banks and food pantries to help those who, oh shoot, I jumped too early. To help those who need food or, just household supplies during the pandemic, because, I thankfully, jeez, oh my God, these fireballs are just messing with me today, man. All right, one more good round and I need to go back to work. Yeah, people, especially in blue collar work, are definitely very negatively affected by the pandemic. Not only drop in hours, but just drop in hours. And thankfully for me, my job still is 40 hours a week. I can work remote, thankfully. But for those who either are suffering hours, have less salary, or maybe they work in a high-risk job, maybe they work at the grocery store or something where there's a lot of exposure to other people. How about you help them out by providing them with PPE paid for by the government, and helping them with medical supplies, food supplies, household supplies, things that may be harder to get for whatever reason, whether it's you have less money, or you live in a food desert, or you the stores in your area just aren't well stocked on things, because that continues to be a problem, is supplies on things. And again, I live in the Chicago suburbs. I live in pretty predominantly white area, so the stores around me don't necessarily have the same amount of issues with the supply chain or anything, but there's certainly lots of places that do. The COVID relief money could have gone towards that. Or how about medical care? It's a lot harder for people to go. I mean, it's hard, period, for some people to just get medical treatment or, prescriptions, medical care, what have you. But now it's even harder in a pandemic. So how about using that COVID money to, fund going out and helping provide medical services to disenfranchised communities within the city of Chicago? No, instead, they spend over 60% of their COVID relief fund on the police. And I'm sorry. I'm not sorry, actually. I'm not going to apologize for this. But the police don't do jack shit to help with COVID. I mean, I'm hard-pressed to, say the police help with anything, because, frankly, I think that they're a institution steeped in racism, and we would all benefit so much more from, if not abolishing the police, then severely defunding the police. And again, studies show that, social workers and social programs do so much more to correct and improve crime rates than armed police do, but yet again, we are pumping more money into military and the police, who are becoming a paramilitary, than we are the actual people of the community. And it's just so frustrating, because it just continues to be that. And I'm just getting sick and tired of same story, different players. Shoot. I knew that going for that barrel there was going to be dangerous, and I was probably going to hit him in the head, but I went for it anyway, because I'm angry. Um, I'm angry and frustrated at the state of this country / world. And I know the United States is just like, my worldview is comparatively small. Like, I do try and pay a little bit more attention to like international news than I used to, but I will apologize for this, but like, I'm sorry, but with all the amount of bullshit that's going on in the United States, I do find it hard to keep track of what's going on in other countries. Because oh boy, so much bullshit in the States constantly. Just so much bullshit. I mean, and again, this is like the help your fucking constituents, help the citizens of the country shit, but like, you know, Biden said he was going to prioritize getting stimulus checks to folks, and here we are, and still haven't voted on the stimulus bill, still haven't done, you know, major improvements to rolling out the vaccine. It's still just a clusterfuck of, like, perfect example. My brother and my dad are both teachers. So they are now they're in, you know, the phase where they should be getting vaccinated for COVID. The problem is that there's nowhere in the area that is, there's very limited places in the area that are administering COVID vaccines. And and just like the whole failure for like a better rollout of the vaccine has caused nothing but confusion as to how folks are supposed to. God damn it! Seriously, the fireballs today are kicking my ass. So I don't even remember when Phase 1B like rolled out, but it's been a while since it like started. And my dad's district, thankfully, got their shit together and started working directly with a Medicare provider to schedule vaccine appointments for the teachers and staff. But my brother's school, they work in different districts. My brother's school district, it was basically you're on your own, but we'll pay for any fees associated with your vaccine. But like, you're basically on your own. And then at one point, they would like, you know, get like, or maybe this, I don't know, somebody, but like, basically, it got to a point where vaccines there would be like 100 vaccine slots a day, and they're being offered on a first come first serve basis. And it's just, and the plan for getting everybody vaccinated has like changed 3 or 4 times. Like originally it was going to be that they were going to administer the vaccines like at the high school, so that's, you know, where the teachers from like both the I don't know why I did that, could have cut point pressing, where the you know, so it was like, okay, so like at the high schools in the area that they'll be administering vaccines there, so both the teachers from the high school district and the elementary school districts will, you know, eventually go to their corresponding high school to get vaccinated. And then that changed, and it's like changed like 3 or 4 times because there's just no organization on the rollout for the vaccine. And it's like, yo, while we're doing this, we're like, if we haven't hit, we're like very quickly approaching 500,000 U.S. citizens who have died due to COVID-19. And again, that's ridiculous. Like, how can you sit here and look at the continuing number of deaths and cases of COVID-19 and not be like, we need to fix this immediately. Like, this is a big, big problem. We need to fix it. Like, let's get on this, guys. Like, let's do this. It's just, you know, it's 100% like corporate greed or whatever bullshit that's actually funding the U.S. government. So that's why nothing's happening, or things are happening, but at a snail's pace because, you know, hundreds of thousands of Americans can die due to a virus, which, you know, other parts of the world have largely been able to contain and prevent and go back to their normal day-to-day living. But God forbid we impede on your freedoms and force everything to close down for a month so that way we can safely contain this and prevent the spread. No. Not gonna happen. And again, like, I'm just, like, salty and frustrated because, as, like, a socialist who's just sitting here, like, why aren't we helping people? It's incredibly frustrating to watch everything continue to unfold. Because, again, I'm just sitting here, like, well, shouldn't we be helping people, maybe? Like, maybe we should do something, like, give people stimulus checks, or the big thing that I didn't even really think about that much until my girlfriend pointed it out, like, not just stimulus checks, but, like, giving money to businesses so they can pay their employees for the shutdown time and then just shut down for, 2 weeks, a month, whatever, in order to, again, prevent the spread. All right. Because that's something that she pointed out. Like, she's like, yeah, stimulus check would be nice, but, like, really, I don't want to, like, I can't afford to go 2 weeks without pay. And, that's the unfortunate situation that a lot of businesses are put into with the pandemic. It's like, well, if we go, I don't like this. Shoot. Oh my god, I can't believe that worked out. But I had no right getting out of that situation. Oh my goodness. Wow. But that's like especially small businesses, it's like, okay, well, we can shut down, which is the safe thing to do and what we're being told to do, but if we don't, have revenue come in, then we're going to go out of business. So, they have to stay open. So if you just would give businesses enough money so that way they can close down and pay their employees and, like, not go into, like, horrendous amounts of debt, maybe that would help the pandemic. But again, it doesn't matter because Americans demand, they demand their bullshit. And if it doesn't get delivered to them, like, God forbid they don't get, their fucking McDonald's Big Mac meal or whatever. I mean, like, I've seen it plenty of times. Like, people, are mad about the regulations put in place in Illinois because Illinois has been one of the better states in terms of putting in strict regulations for the pandemic. So people are mad at Illinois for putting in these strict, or rather more strict, regulations in place for the pandemic. So they'll just, like, go vacation places where it's not as strict, like where the rules aren't as strict. Like, this is something that has happened very frequently, that, like, I've seen, not only, like, accounts of online, but, like, I've had people tell me, like, oh yeah, like, my coworker went to, like, Florida or whatever. Again, I don't know why I ran towards that, thinking I could get through. Like, oh yeah, my coworker went to Florida, and, didn't quarantine when they got back, and it's like, it's just frustrating, because, again, like, if we just shut everything down, if we had just shut everything down and all been good little people and stayed home and had the government helped us to stay home and not force places to continue to be open, had we all just stayed home, all been paid to do so, we wouldn't be in a pandemic anymore. yeah, like it's just, I don't know, it's frustrating. So today was a big long political rant. And you know, my play was okay. I had at least two 60K plus games, so that's good. But yeah, I don't know. I'm frustrated at climate change. I'm frustrated at the government, and that's me. Play video games while ranting. Yeah, two 60 plus games. Okay, that's good. Yeah, yeah. So, yeah, the government's going to continue to not do things to help fix the situation, or whatever they do is coming too slowly, and at this point really isn't enough because, like, again, like, how many hundreds of thousands of citizens need to die from something that could have been preventable had people taken this seriously from the get-go and had the government really properly given them the means to do so, because like I'm not going to completely put it on people being stupid. I'm going to put it on like there's just people who need money, so they need to go to work, and if their business is not going to close because they're desperate for money as well, like, you know, whether it be a big corporation who should, you know, be able to fully afford letting their employees have a few weeks off, or it's a small mom and pop place, like, you know, the government already bails out big business and banks enough. Like, why not just throw them some more money, guys? Like, I just don't get it. Because it's for the good of the people. That's why. It's for the good of the people and isn't lining their pockets with cash and bribes and whatnot. Anyway, thanks for coming by. Thanks for coming by. I appreciate it. Hopefully tomorrow I'll end up on a topic that is less frustrating to me. So thanks for coming by, and I'll see y'all next time.